Did you miss us? Well, if you're one of our regular listeners, which we're starting to gain regular listeners this season, our second season out there on the Where Eagles Dare podcast. If you're one of our regular listeners, you probably missed us pretty good. I actually saw some people that liked the Facebook posts that we're coming back. We're going to get more active on the social media and stuff like that. But we are back with the Where Eagles Dare podcast with Lee and Tubby for season 2022 of the Eagles to try to get back to glory, get back to the Super Bowl. And it's just around the corner. We had our first preseason game last night, the Hall of Fame game. The Jaguars and the Raiders. Wasn't much of a game. None of the starters really played except for Jacobs and a couple other guys. Not much. But it's back. Football is back. And real football is right around the corner. How you feeling, Tubby, about football being back?
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It really is, man. Man, there's nothing a greater feeling than that up and coming football season, man. You know, I'm not a big basketball fan. I watch basketball, so that doesn't really carry me over when football ends, but soccer does. You know, luckily Chelsea carries me over, keeps me going, you know what I'm saying, for the most part. And I really don't have a gap, you know, so until about June, July, and it's like kind of dead. But then it all picks back up, man. So yeah, man, I'm really excited about the new season, man. How can you not be if you're a real Eagles fans, man? This is our time of the year. This is our holiday. This is when we're on holiday for 17, 18 weeks now. So, yeah, man, really excited to be back, man. Talk Birds football, man. My favorite things to do.
Exactly. It is. I watch other sports. My son's recently got me back into auto racing, not so much NASCAR, but like Formula One. I think a lot of people, Formula One's kind of sweeping the country with the Netflix show, and it's kind of gaining in popularity. So my son got on that train. I used to watch Formula One, started watching that, started watching IndyCar, and it's great. I've really enjoyed the off season to be able to kind of get into that after soccer ended, like yourself. I'm a Liverpool fan, so I love soccer, but there is nothing like the NFL if you're an NFL fan. This is what we live for. And when the off season happens, it's kind of, especially like say being a diehard Eagles fan since I was 9 years old, this is that time of year where there's just a gap. You get the draft, which is always great, but then there's that waiting for training camp to start is just like a grind. And then it's what's interesting is that they this the preseason started, but they're shortening the preseason. Right. So we don't have to sit there and agonize through 4 meaningless games. Now we just get 3 meaningless games. So you got to have those games. You got to have those games to get those guys ready for the regular season and just find out what you got in the draft and free agency and just picking up these unrestricted free agents or undrafted free agents rather. But, you know, real football, man, September 11th is the date, first Eagles game. And I got my tickets and I can't wait to be there. I'm going to be in Detroit to see the opening game. So yeah, I'm fired up. It's less than a month away, man. And right now we just get to enjoy everything about it, including what we're here for today, which is doing the NFC East preview. So 4 teams in the NFC East, hate them all except the Eagles. One thing, my kids, we grew up in different areas of the country, and I told them I didn't care if you were an Eagles fan. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just made them all be Eagles fans, but I want to be that dad. So I was like, all right, you don't have to be an Eagles fan, but you're not allowed to be a fan of any other team in the NFC East.
Right.
So I used to have like the little footballs in a little display case, and I would give them out to, you know, tell the kids, go pick your team, what team you'd like, just let me know, and we'll support them. And my youngest, man, he kept trying to bring me Cowboys helmets all the time, saying, this one, Dad. I'm like, no. And I had to take them out, the Cowboys, the Giants, and Redskins at the time, and say, all right, we got to take those out. Now, speaking of the Redskins, so this graphic is wrong. I still got the Redskins up there. I couldn't find one with the Commander stuff yet. So I'm like, we're just going to have it for one more season until they fix this stuff. But, you know, that's going to be a hard transition is getting used to the Commanders. But at least I will say this, because I said it all last year, I was getting tired of Washington football team, of saying Washington football team. So I'm glad that's done. So, you know, looking at the NFC East, do we think it's going to be better than it was last year? Because I know that, you know, we've been dealing with for the last several years the jokes about the NFC least not being competitive. You know, the Cowboys went out in the first round, the Eagles go out. You know, they're just not as strong since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They've been kind of, you know, one and done, or if they do get in. what is your thoughts on the NFC East as a whole before we start breaking it down?
Yeah, man. Well, the NFL is all about what have you done for me lately type deal. The NFC East are responsible for Tom Brady not having 10 Super Bowl rings.
Damn
I mean,
straight.
just want to throw that out there before you want to talk crap about the NFC East, man. It's just we're always strong because of our fan base. If you come to Philly, you're going to feel that fan base. If you go down to DC, you're going to feel that fan base. If you go up to New York, North Jersey, same thing. You're going to feel that fan base. And, you go down to the Cowboys, you're going to feel the most delusional fan base in pro football. So, man, as a whole, people know that we bring it every single year, no matter what our rosters are. Every game, NFC East, at least our fans, we feel like we can beat anybody, no matter no matter our roster, man. So overall, man, we're always going to bring it. We're always going to bring it, man. We got, like I said, we got new people coming into the division that we didn't have last year. So that strengthens it. We got Carson Wentz back. We're doing a little overall, just a overall view. You got Carson Wentz coming back, but you got guys that left. Dallas. What's my guy name? That went up to Cleveland.
You talking about
Amari Cooper? Amari Cooper. Yeah. So, things like that. There's been some changes, some moving around. But overall, yeah, definitely a strong division, man, for sure, man. What you thinking about the division overall this year?
The interesting question will be, can a champion, come out of this division this year? And I think that, I think if you talk to people at ESPN, they will tell you that, the Dallas, sure, they could win it. I'm not convinced on that end. I think that legitimately, if it's going to be out of the NFC East, and I could be biased. I am biased. I'll just say it right now. This is an Eagles podcast. If there's a champion going to come out of the NFC East or a contender to the Super Bowl title, it's got to be the Eagles with all they've done in the offseason. Just a couple of limiting factors that might keep them from that. We don't know how good Jalen Hurts can be when he's got all these weapons now. So it's definitely an unknown. I think we're both convinced that he's going to be good enough to get them to the playoffs and win. At least right now. I mean, you see everything that they've done, but it takes a total team. And that's where the Eagles have really built from last year's roster and built a stronger roster than before. And this is a playoff team. Granted, they got beat up by Tom Brady and the Bucs in round one. It happened, but it was good experience for a lot of the young guys. It's good experience for Hurts to be out there and see what playoff football and to be hungry after having that taste in your mouth of being, knocked down after losing. So I think that the Eagles do have, if it's going to come out of the East, I think it's going to be the Eagles. I think what you said, we'll talk about the Cowboys here in a minute. I think they've lost too much to be able to be real legitimate contenders for the title. They could definitely make the playoffs and be contenders for the NFC East title. I'm not ruling them out of winning the division, but they've lost a lot, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with our NFC preview. Let's start with the Eagles. Just some quick news and notes about what happened. Former Bucs defensive tackle Kobe Smith is signed with the Eagles now, and that's just more depth on that defensive line. Our defensive line are actually both offensive and defensive lines, probably one of the best in the league right now after everything that they've done in the offseason. So this was a big bonus move. In addition, I don't think we talked about it since the last podcast, but they signed James Bradbury, corner from Giants. We may have brought it up at the last podcast. I can't remember. But that's huge because one of the things I was worried about was that other corner spot opposite Slay after they lost Steven Nelson. So to know that we've got Bradbury coming in, who's no slouch at that position, we got our corners. Depth at corner may be, something we have to, worry about, but we'll see how that goes. Also, I just had to share this meme. I don't know if you've seen the new helmet protectors in training camp. For those listening, if you haven't seen them, they look like rugby helmets. They're just these padded rubber protectors that you have to slide over your helmets now in training camp to prevent concussions. It's a legitimate concern. We're not trying to make fun of it, but my boy Kelsey had actually grabbed some bubble wrap and put around. So if you're just one of the listeners, you can't see the meme. This will be our cover for this week. But yeah, you wrap bubble wrap around his helmet, going full bubble boy for practice. You got to love Kelsey. Glad he's back for another year.
Yeah, man. Just back to the Kelsey real quick. Did when you see the video clips, you can hear the bubbles popping.
I did not see the video.
When you watch the video of it, you can actually hear the bubbles popping. And
I did not see
that's what
that.
makes it even more, just funny, man.
Oh, I wish
He
I would
goes
see
in,
that.
sticks his head down, you hear that pop, from the bubble. Yeah, he was making a big old show about it, man. But
it was great. I mean, they do look silly. They do serve a purpose. But yeah, you gotta make fun of it. There's no way you can't. You wear them, but you can have some fun with it. But yeah, if I was like a defensive lineman, I'd be trying to pop him by hand on his helmet every time I went by him. So
Kelsey always keeping it light, man. Always keeping it light.
Definitely. I saw some people talking about his speech again, and some of the guys that were there from the speech from 2017 from the parade, and they talk about how he was just lit. He was just hammered. They saw him chug 3 or 4 beers, and then a fan throw him a beer, chug another one. When he got up there, he was lit. And they said they just don't know how everything was off the top of his head. It wasn't pre-written, and that just shows you what kind of guy Kelsey is. He's somebody definitely you want to hang out with if you're going to party for the weekend. He's definitely somebody who'd be alive for party. So love our boy Kelsey. And also just another quick news and notes about the Eagles is they're doing an alternate helmet this year. Like, I don't know if you saw the Bengals helmet, which is just beautiful.
I did.
It's amazing. They're doing the Bengals alternate uniform this year is going to be like a reverse negative on their uniform. So it's going to be white and with black tiger stripes, and the helmet's the same way. It's gorgeous. Definitely got to give them props to that. The Eagles, because they use the alternate black uniform every year, they're going to be doing an alternate black helmet. I thought about getting myself one of these mini black helmets like that because they are cool. Of course, I love my green, but mixing it up every once in a while is pretty awesome. So we have that to look forward to. Also, it was approved that we'll have the Kelly green alternates this year, which will be pretty cool to see the Eagles in that.
Man. Every time you bring the Kelly greens back, it's I got the Kelly green behind me, because you have the Kelly green jersey on. I believe.
I got the Selleck on right now.
I mean, it's definitely just a color that it's kind of like. I know I have a Phillies hat on, but the maroon Phillies, some things are just legendary in Philly that they keep on in that maroon. I don't know if you remember the Mike Schmidt days. Had the maroon and like light blue and whatnot, man. Those colors still stay around. Man, we always love the Kelly greens. It always reminds us of those good Reggie White, Randall Cunningham days, man, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. I was going through, of course, because my basement flooded, so I had to get through all my memorabilia to make sure it was safe. And I had an old Monday Night Football Sports Illustrated with Randall Cunningham on the cover in the Kelly green. And it just makes you feel good. I love the uniforms now. Don't get me wrong. I love the logo. I love everything. But that goes back to my childhood, remembering those days and that old helmet. Some people don't like it, but if you're older Eagle fan like me, it's amazing. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to this year in just all the different changes and the uniforms and everything. But this team, we talked about it in the offseason special. We talked about it in the draft special. We can't come out of the draft and free agency. I don't think we could have come out any better. I mean, we land A.J. Brown during the draft in a trade. We grabbed Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean. I mean, it's just one after the other. And then to go out and sign Bradbury, like we mentioned, at corner, they've stacked this team pretty well, getting ready for the season. Just about every hole for this team has been filled except maybe safety. Now we're going to have Marcus Epps there. And that could be, and we've got others that we brought in. Jakeezy Tart is going to probably be backing him up in that role. That's the only place I'm not quite sure. But if that's really my only concern, I'm good with that. How do you feel about the Eagles roster as far as the NFC East goes, as far as where they would finish?
Well, I mean, on paper, we look great, but the reality is we have a lot of guys that still haven't taken an NFL snap. Nakobe Dean, I like him, but he hasn't taken an NFL snap. Jordan Davis hasn't taken an NFL snap. Cam Jurgens, we got really good. We have solid, with that pedigree coming. We have a good pedigree. The guys on our roster, we have a lot of guys that are hard competitors. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Zach Pascals, even Quez, man. I think Quez is going to surprise a lot of people. I know Quez is not on everybody's roster, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people because I think Quez has always been hanging around. I think if it wasn't for Rager, he probably would have had a little more shine. But I know people love the AJ Browns and the Devontae Smiths, but I'm looking for Quez to have a good season too. But overall, our roster, yes, I think we could do a little bit better at running back. And then we have we have Hurts going into a nice year because it's kind of like a contract year for him. So you always get the best out of the players. And I think, overall, I really like the Eagles squad, man. You don't need a safety to win the Super Bowl. Look at the Rams. They picked up Weddle with the last couple weeks of the season or something like that. And you got a 40-year-old Weddle or something like that starting in the Super Bowl. You're not going to fill every gap, but you just want a team that can build some cohesion, man. It's like, you look at the Eagles practices, the OTAs, and a couple spring training, like they're having fun, man, building that chemistry. So that's why I like more over. I want them to go in that league with, to start the season with a good, good spirits, high up on each other, just really keeping that good vibe going. So I like our roster overall, man, compared to anybody else in the NFC East for sure.
I mean, offensively, you can't deny that they have the best lines in the league now. Even with Brandon retiring, they go in Cam Jurgens in the draft to be the future Kelsey successor. But Kelsey's coming back this year. We've got so much that these guys are ready to take their next step. You mentioned the addition of Zach Pascal. That's an underrated move when you talk about you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and now you put Pascal in the slot. And like you said, Quez is the fourth. We noticed we didn't even mention Rager's name. And that the only reason we did was to point out that we hadn't mentioned it. But those four are solid. And then you combine that with Miles Sanders coming back off the injury, hopefully the better. The only real question mark, and to us, it's not much of one, is the Jalen Hurts factor. Is he going to be better in year 3 to where it's a much more balanced offense? And we didn't even mention Goddard. I mean, look at that on paper. That offense, to me, matches up with anybody in the league right now. It just does. Defensive side of the ball, like I said, again, it just comes down to safety because our front seven is, and again, that to me, we talked about it last year, is all on Gannon. It all depends on how his defensive scheme runs when he's got these horses. If he's able to let Bradbury and Slay cover in man so that you can get the pressure that you need on the quarterback. We'll see how I'm not a fan of his scheme. I'm not a fan of the bend but don't break, but I'm wondering if this season, if it's going to play out better because of the improvements along everywhere. Because we're going to have linebackers that can cover now, which we didn't have before. I mean, so we had a pretty good season last year, but we're getting Brendan Graham back. It's just, I mean, seriously, unless they get decimated by injuries early round, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. What do you say?
Yeah, no, just the depth. Hassan Reddick as well too. We didn't mention him. We just got guys that can play, but we'll see, man. We got to put it all together. We need a good game plan, like you said, with Gannon. We don't know scheme wise as well too. Remember last year, the first 7 games of the year, I'm yelling from the rooftops, "Hey, man, this is actually a running line." It was just had nothing to do with the offense. I'm talking about just the personnel that was on the line. It's like I feel like we're bringing that same personnel back, man, and we'll see what happens. But I just want a nice balanced attack this year from the Eagles on the offensive side. I don't want no heavy QB runs. I want just a balanced playbook and just run the playbook. That's the biggest determination of where Jalen is. Because if you're running the playbooks that you are specifically have for him because of his abilities to run the ball, but then you switch it up when another quarterback comes in, I don't think that's a good measuring stick. Run the same playbook for every quarterback on that squad.
Right.
And then we can measure up, and then we can see what we have. See what we have, man. But that's where I am. The only concern I do have is the quarterback spot. That if Jalen goes down, we don't have a proven guy. We don't have anybody on that roster with a playoff win.
That's true.
We don't have anybody on that roster with a playoff win. So it's just like, we don't know. We got Minshew and then Carson Strong and Stinson. But I'm telling you, man, if Hurts goes down, that could really tank everything around it, man, because of the, it looks easy, but there's a reason why teams go through a lot of quarterbacks, man, because it's not the easiest position to play, man.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of the teams in the NFC East are in that boat. If Dak went down for Dallas, it'd be all over them. We've seen that happen before.
We've seen that happen.
that goes down and they're done. And so we just got to keep our fingers crossed. I mean,
And
that's
they
the
brought starters in
intangible.
like Dalton. It's not like they brought bums, and they brought a starter in of Dalton. They still
Not the
couldn't
same.
get it done because it's just not that easy to do.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. The guy knows the offense, and it's designed for that quarterback. So
Right.
yeah, if Jalen goes down, we're going to be hurting. One of the other guys, like I said, is back is Miles Sanders, and he put out this take from the training camp, which I enjoyed how it came about because it has a flashback of what happened back in 2010 with the dream team, quote unquote, quote that came out of the Eagles camp that year with Vince Young, and it really just kind of blew up in their face. And so Miles Sanders comes out, and after the first bit of camp, saying we all feel like we're an all-star team. We feel unstoppable. And what I liked was that AJ Brown quickly smacked that down and said, "No, we haven't won anything yet, so we're not on any type of all-star team." He really was quick to make sure that they got rid of the juju from that quote. So I know that it feels like on paper, it feels like an all-star team, and I get it. It's a really good-looking team. But Miles is going to learn that until you prove it on the field, you don't prove it in the press. And I learned this, so we're going to throw myself under the bus because I learned this back in 2010. This is a Facebook post I found this week from July 30th, 2011, 11 years ago. And I wrote, great morning to wake up an Eagles fan. They signed Nnamdi Asomugha, Jason Babin, Vince Young, Donald Lee, and then trade Kevin Cobb for Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. Love the new GM, which was Howie Roseman, and can't wait for the season to start. Oh man, that was a bad take on my part.
That's not that bad of a take, man. In hindsight, is they say hindsight is 2020, but at the time, Nnamdi Asomugha was the man out there at the Raiders.
Exactly. Yeah.
DRC was playing good football anywhere that he went. With the Cardinals, with the Jets, he played good ball, man. I mean Vince Young, but
as a backup to
GM,
Vic.
this new GM in 6 years' time still got a Super Bowl. So
it's true.
That's not Super Bowls. Just speaking on Super Bowls for a second, I will remind everyone that Aaron Rodgers has one ring.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody that wants to just believe that one person can hold you back or stop you, because the momentum going in is like, man, if we just have a quarterback, we'll just win it. And I'm like, tell that to Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
17 years in the league, one ring. Peyton Manning, he went one ring in 18 years and then won it his 19th year, one ring.
Right.
Peyton Manning, 18 years. But people will make you believe that if Hurts is the reason why you won't win the Super Bowl. And it's just like, man, it takes, so I like the good points of talking about the whole roster in general, because it takes a full roster. You can have the greatest quarterback and still not win. You have to build a roster, cohesion, and it works. So, yeah, man. But I'm really looking forward to the season overall, man. But I just always wanted to put that out there. Like,
yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, when
that stuff, like, look, man, all-star team, we have to win games first.
Exactly. When I saw the take, it made me laugh though, because it's just something that I felt back 11 years ago. And now, when they won the Super Bowl in 2017, and it just seems like it was yesterday. Still doesn't believe it's like 5 years ago, but still, if you watched the game that year, it didn't come easy that year. They went through ups and downs with Wentz going down and then having Foles come in. It was one of the most rockiest seasons. But for the Eagles to win it that year, things had to fall in place. That game against the Falcons, where they had to come from behind and win it at the end, the blowout against the Vikings, who would have saw that coming after going down 7-0, and then going up against one of the best quarterback of all time in Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Right. It just doesn't happen easy, like you said. Right. Things have to fall into place. You have to get a little bit of luck. You have to get some good fortune. You have to get good calls. You have to stay relatively injury-free. So anything can happen this year. I do like the Eagles' chances. There's some great teams out there. Buffalo is great on the AFC side of the ball. The Chiefs are going to be great. The Rams are going to be good coming back again this year. The NFC, the 49ers will probably be decent. There's going to be some decent teams to contend with. But today we're just talking about our division. So let's move it into our chief rival who is either going to finish first or finish second. I think we both agree on that. And that's the Dallas Cowboys. Now, before we get too deep into the Cowboys, I just want to point out this stat that's all over the internet right now. Number of rings since 1997. That's a long time ago. J-Lo has 6. She's been married 6 times. And Dallas, 0. So whenever my Dallas friends like to talk about how they got more rings and the Eagles just have 1, I'm like, we can't talk ancient history when we're talking about Dallas rings, because all of their, like, one of my favorite memes that's out there is the Super Bowl highlights, where if your Super Bowl highlights are only in VHS, then you haven't won a Super Bowl in a very long period of time. And that's basically the Cowboys right now. But
Facts.
and they're hurting this year. I was really surprised at the losses they took. The biggest ones being losing Randy Gregory, and like we talked about with Amari Cooper going to Cleveland, and losing Lyle Collins. That's massive pieces of your championship puzzle that you're going to build toward one that they didn't replace. They, Dante Fowler, and they got Tyler Smith in the draft, to replace those lines. So they're not going in blind, but it isn't to lose what they think I saw in the Hall of Fame game last night. They're talking about the offense. They lost 17 touchdowns in Amari Cooper last year. So, and combined with everybody they lost, that's a big chunk of your offense if you're going in that way. And they, on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, they're going to get Michael Gallup back, and of course CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb. He's outstanding, and they got Dalton Schultz at tight end, so they're not going to be slouched. And of course they got Zeke coming back and Pollard, so they've got an offense. They're not going to be slouches on offense, but I think Amari Cooper is a big loss to the overall scheme of things as far as taking the heat off of Lamb. So I think it's going to impact. I think they're going to be hanging around. The record, last year's record was 12-5. I don't see them duplicating that. I don't see them being 12-5 this year. Right. I think that's a stretch. And
I don't see the Cowboys. I don't see the Cowboys being 7-5 at all. They got a lot of young studs. Diggs coming back. He had the most interceptions last year, but he also gave up the most touchdowns as well too. So he's just turned into a gamble guy. I don't know, man. I think the Giants could potentially finish higher than the Cowboys this year. I don't know. It's something about the Giants been kind of a sleeper. I think Saquon's healthy. I think we'll see how. I think we have to see how healthy Saquon is. If he's healthy, I think he may have been rushed back a little bit last year. It was a pretty nasty injury that he took. Then he took another ankle injury during the season. They just wouldn't shut him down and let him rest. I think a fully rested Saquon is tough, man. Tough. And Daniel Jones hasn't had a good career, but he's one more year into the same era. I think got D-Ball up there. They have a new coach up there. No, it's second year up there.
No, this is Brian Dayball. I thought this was his first year.
This is first year. Okay. Well,
they got him and Joe Shine from Buffalo.
Gotcha.
So they brought them in. So to me, that's the key right there. Is I think it's a lot with like when Sirianni came in last year. The Eagles made the playoffs and they struggled to do it, but they made it. But Sirianni was a first-year head coach. I think that's going to affect them a lot. I'm not a big Daniel Jones guy. I think that I'm just not convinced that. I think Hurts is a much better quarterback. Dak is a much better quarterback than Daniel Jones right now. So I don't know what they got other than Saquon that lights the earth on fire as far as offensively. Defensively, I mean, I don't know. There's so much unknowns. I really expect them to be kind of the whipping boys of the East this year. That's just my prayer. Yeah, in fact, I had a meme. I pulled a meme on it just because it makes me laugh. Is it just the crying Jordan meme, and it just says Giants fans be like, got my game face on.
Good.
I have a friend who's a Giants fan, and he's not too excited about this year. Maybe it's just because they've had such struggles in the past few years. They're just tired. I think they're just tired, and that's a problem. They lost Evan Ingram, which is a big loss to me. That's like a big part of their offense. They lost Logan Ryan at safety. So I really just don't see they got a pretty decent offensive line. They brought in a couple of guys on offensive line to kind of bolster that to help Saquon out. But I don't know. It's Saquon's age and injuries that may get the better of him. We'll just have to see. I mean, it's an unknown.
Right. And as far as the Commanders go, they have Wentz out there. We'll see what happens. I mean, I still think Wentz is a pretty solid quarterback. I just think in a haste, he doesn't perform well at times, which is, I guess, is kind of important if you're a quarterback. But man, that Washington roster, man, I just can't call it, man. You got Scary Terry out there, Terry McLaurin. He's a hell of a quarterback. Wentz, when he picks his right target, he'll go to him really heavy. They have Thomas coming back. Remember Logan
Right.
Thomas? He was having a solid season. Wentz loves a tight end.
Right.
And Thomas is like 6'6", 6'7" or something. You got some big targets out there, man. And in that backfield. McKissick bounced back from his injury last year. And I forgot who the other guy was. Oh, my goodness. I had him on.
You talking about Antonio Gibson?
Gibson.
Are you talking about Gibson was great. And he'll be back.
Gibson.
It's great.
Right. Now, Chase Young won't be back because he's injured. Chase Young, that's a big loss for him. So he won't start the season, but they'll get him back. And for the NFC, when you're in the division, the end of the year is way more important than how it starts because that's when the bulk of your games. Like, we don't even see the Giants until week 14. Like, what? So.
Right. Yeah, no, it's weird how the NFL does that where they set the schedule up to where we play most of our division opponents toward the end. I get it. It's meant to draw excitement toward the playoff races, but I'd like to get like the first half playing some of our division opponents out of the way so we're not back end heavy on the back of the season, but it is what it is. Yeah, another losses they lost Brandon Sheff and Landon Collins at safety, and that's a big loss for them. So they're I don't want to say they're in rebuilding mode. I think they're brought in Wentz because they didn't believe in Heineke at being able to get the job done. And so they're kind of throwing up a Hail Mary with the Wentz thing. And it was, to me, it's just kind of surprising how quickly the Colts and Frank Reich, who thought he could rework that magic from 2017 with Wentz, how quickly they gave up on that and decided to move on. It kind of blows my mind. Granted, they had an opportunity to get a great quarterback, but
he didn't have to say either.
No. And if you watch the games, he wasn't great with Indy. That was all Jonathan. I like calling him Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was like the actor on Home Improvement. But that was all Jonathan Taylor. That was everything that was him. That's our number one fantasy football running back coming back this year. It was all one guy. And Wentz should have had a better year when your running back is that outstanding, and he didn't. So I'm just not. I loved Wentz when he was with Philly. I thought he was going to have a great career. I think there's so many things that have worked against him. I think the injuries have created, just like they did with Robert Griffin III, another Washington quarterback, it created confidence issues where he's tentative with his throws. He's tentative to run out of the pocket because he don't want to get hurt again. And it took, when you take away a quarterback's legs, like it did with Griffin and now with Wentz, it really impacts their game overall. What happened? We saw it happen when McNabb started having injuries and when Cunningham started having injuries. You break your leg or you have a really bad MCL, and it affects everything. Then, fat defensive linemen are catching you from behind because you're waiting and you can't decide whether you want to run or if you're going to wait a few more minutes to let that pass go. When in the past, you would know if your receiver's coverage is taken off. And I think with Wentz, that's where he's at right now. I still think he's dynamic. Could be wrong. I mean, if he does well with Washington, God bless him. I hope he doesn't because he's a division opponent now. It was just like when McNabb went to Washington. Love you, McNabb, but I don't want you to do well. So I don't want Wentz to do well. I think that they'll be middle of the road. I actually believe, just my opinion, I think Washington and the Giants will both end up under 500 this year. Giants will be just a little bit better, maybe 8-9. I mean, not the Giants, the Commanders 8-9, and then Giants like somewhere around 6 wins, maybe. I just don't think either team's going to be that great. I think it's all going to be Dallas and Philadelphia. To me, when we did the schedule preview and we talked about the Eagles' opponents, the Eagles' schedule is really, really favorable. So it's going to come down to those games against Dallas head to head for the division. Eagles win in Dallas this year. It's on. It is on as far as taking the whole thing. So I think it's going to be interesting. Now, that's my prediction. I think the Eagles first, the Cowboys just behind. I really think the Eagles can go 11-6, and I think the Cowboys. I mean, Eagles could be better than that, but I'm going to be a little bit on the conservative side, 11-6, and I think the Cowboys could be just behind at 10-7, and then the Washington and the Giants. What do you got as far as where you see the Eagles?
I have the Eagles around that same kind of wins, 11 or 12. I think give or take a game or two, a bounce or two here or there, bad call here or there. I can see is definitely. I have definitely an expectation to win double-digit games this year for sure, especially if our line stays healthy. If we got healthy guys up front, I don't see why, because now I think everybody should know each other enough to run a successful offense, and hopefully Gannon has learned to run a successful defense. And I think if we stop quarterbacks from completing 80% on us, I think we can have a way greater chance, man. That's to me, that was about, I know we didn't beat, because we have improved, man. We didn't last year, we didn't beat a team with a winning record. So we were better than the worst, but we wasn't as good as the best, So, we have to make that step forward. And yeah, I think in the Cowboys, I think the Eagles should win the division, 11-12 wins. I can see the Cowboys kind of right around there. I can see it go down to like the last couple of weeks of the season with the Cowboys as well too. And if Washington hit a hot streak because they have a veteran quarterback, I just veteran quarterbacks. You got guys that have been around and can stay healthy for a whole season, which Wentz kind of did last year. If Daniels can last year, I think if all of the guys stay healthy, I think it's going to be a fight, man. It's always a dog fight in our division, so I don't expect anything different this year.
Yeah, I think that the games in the division will always be tough. They're never gimmies, no matter how bad the teams are doing. So I think that you're right on that aspect. I'm just thinking overall against other opponents. I think I saw a stat this week, so don't hold me to the complete accuracy, but I'm pretty sure it was no NFC team has ever repeated as a division champs since the Eagles did it in 03 and 04, which is almost 20 years ago almost, that a team has repeated as the division champ. So I think that for the Cowboys to do it, if they do it, great for them. I don't think they will. I think it is the Eagles' division to lose with everything they got. We have to see the chemistry between Brown and Smith when they've got these guys out there, because the thing was, we saw last year with Smith, out there on his own, really, with no help from Rager, getting open, and he was just making plays. And now you've got another guy that people have to account for. I think that is going to be the difference. In my opinion, if I had to say one thing why I think the Eagles will be better than the Cowboys this year, it's going to be because the Cowboys lost Amari Cooper, so they don't have that guy to take the heat off CeeDee Lamb, and the Eagles gained A.J. Brown, which is just going to open up their passing offense even more. And it's going to open up their running game a little bit more with Miles Sanders, because once they start worrying about the pass, it's going to create big holes for our running line, as you talked about, to be able to create holes for Sanders. And so I'm unless something drastic happens, I'm really excited about this season. I'm more than ever. Like I mentioned, I got tickets to the opening game, and I also got tickets to the November 20th game in Indianapolis, because I live in Ohio. I can't live in Philly and go to those games. I may go out to Philly for a game this year, but for those two, I've definitely got tickets for. So we're hoping maybe that if your schedule allows, you can join me at some of those games that we can report from there.
I'm working on it. I did. I already talked to the wife about it. Put out.
All right.
See what happens, man. I threw out a jab. See what happens.
There we go. Tickets are already taken care of. We already got them. We just got to get together and make it happen. So we will be here, fellow listeners, on the podcast. We will be back each and every week from here on out. But who? Hey, hold on. Let me back up. You hear anything?
Mm-mm.
You don't hear that?
No.
I don't know why. Maybe it's on the thing. But this is all right. This is what bloopers are for, so it's okay.
Yeah, just a little.
Did you hear it Did you hear the intro when we started?
I sent you a text. I was hoping that you glanced at it.
Oh, I didn't see it.
On the intro.
Why that is.
I think it was probably the same thing that happened last time. That little twerk. We'll get back into it. Get back into the flow.
Yeah, you know what it is? I think.
Hi, I'm Tubby. Now it's just me. It's all good. I think Greg just backed out of the studio. for a second, but we're going to keep it moving here with the Where Eagles There podcast. Yeah. Let's see what happened. Anyway, probably going to end up ending the show here shortly. If Greg especially can't get back in, we were trying to just end it off there. So yeah, if you're still listening, I'll just go ahead and end it off here. Thanks for listening to the Where Eagles There podcast with Greg, Lee, Tubby, and we'll see you guys back. Probably going to do another podcast probably about after the first, right before the first preseason game. So you can see us back here next week, probably around Wednesday or so. He's back, man.
I don't know what's wrong with that. It was really weird. It shut my camera off.
Yeah, man. It's good practice in case I ever go for live news.
I think it's because I didn't have the Roadcaster hooked in initially. So we'll make sure before we start our next podcast, we'll make sure that we take care of that so that we.
Cool. Yeah. I was babbling a little bit.
So you can't hear this. Oh yeah, no, that's always good. You still can't hear the music, right?
Nah, can't hear the music on this.
Okay, so I'm going to hear it on my end, and I'll just intro this last part because I can cut it all up. All right. So that brings us to the end of this podcast, but I do want to mention that we are going to be here at least once a week to discuss each of the preseason games. And this is what we've got lined up. We've got the Jets at Philly on August 12th. That's next week, and we will be here to report on that after the game. We also have the preseason game number 2 is August 21st. We'll be here after that game to Philly at Cleveland. I should have gone to that. Now that I think about it, missed opportunities just up the road. And then on August 27th, they take on the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. That's all of our preseason opponents, and we'll be here after that to discuss it. And then the big one, week 1, September 11th in Detroit against the Lions to start the season opener. So we will be here at least once a week. When the regular season starts, we're going to be here twice a week to do a preview and then a recap. But for now, preseason, we're just going to talk about the preseason game because there's no point in previewing a preseason game. Oh, right. We can just talk about what we saw,
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah, a lot to look forward to. And I'm looking forward to this next preseason and everything next week, August 12th, ready to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Tubby for his final words of the podcast.
Again, thanks for coming to check us out on the Where Eagles There podcast. Check out our social media platforms with Greg or Leah, run them all down to you. And yeah, man, we're going to be posting more clips this year, especially on YouTube, our Facebook, and our TikTok. We're going to definitely try to get a little more content out there for TikTok. So whether it's a preseason game or whatever it's at, just check us out, man. Look out for content from us, man. We may drop little clips. Somebody may get injured throughout the week, or maybe a new signing happens like Kobe. And, we may drop a little short and, just tell you what's on our mind or try to keep you up to date as possible, man. You're going to be locked in this season. You're going to see a lot of Lee and Tubby this season, for sure.
It sounds good. I'm out of practice, so I forgot to mention that, yeah, if you want to email us, you can do so at our Gmail. It's Lee, that's lee.bird, that's byrd, .eaglesdare@gmail.com. Also, if you like the live stream and you want to check it out, you can follow us on Twitch. You can follow us on YouTube as well as Facebook. We'll be more than happy to take emails and requests and just answer your questions on the podcast whenever you have something coming up about the Eagles football. So with that being said, we're going to head out. And so, Tubby, what do you got to say for me?
Hey, fly, Eagles, fly.
And go Birds. We'll talk to you next week after the Jets preseason game. Have a good weekend, everybody. All right. I know what I did wrong there. And when I tried to fix it, it wouldn't let me.
Nah, it's all good.
But I was able to get back in.
I was good,
yeah.
I was so caught off guard. I was just like, yeah. So, and then the screen popped up full screen right in my face. I'm like, oh shit.
Well, you know what's funny is that all I did was go into my settings and I saw that I didn't have the Roadcaster set as my input, just the mic. So I was like,
too. It still has its live.
Oh, hey everyone.
Hi.
I didn't end the broadcast. I'll end that now.